Jackie Stewart, touring cars, well, they're a little bit different from the ones that you used to drive, the Ford Capris, the Lotus Cortinas, but these cars really do look the business around here.
Tremendously exciting. Of course, touring car championship racing, both in the United Kingdom and Europe and now around the world, has become a major sport. Tremendous appeal for spectators, and of course we've got a maximum crowd here today. Temperature's 26 degrees at the present time. It's going to be warm and sunny all day. Warm and sunny is going to affect, of course, tyre temperatures and so forth, and with the bigger, heavier cars and touring car racing, that can go off. If somebody's over exuberant and driving it a little too hard, it can affect race results.
You know, when you were driving Formula One cars, it was not unusual for the likes of yourself and Graham Hill and Jack Brabham and Jimmy Clark to jump into a touring car on the same day and race those as well.
We did that, in fact, and it happened a great deal. It was great fun, and of course it made you very versatile. It made you work with different kinds of machinery and different kind of mechanics. So I think it was a good educational thing for us. We did it all the way through from Minis to Cortinas, later on to Escorts, and then to Capris. In my case, Jaguar 3.8s. Jack Brabham drove a Galaxy, and Dan Gurney did too. Graham Hill drove Jaguars, and well, Jim Clark was of course one of the great Cortina drivers.
Out on the warm-up lap now. And as you can see now, this guy, Johnny Bowers, had a fantastic season here. He's won the Australian Touring Car Championship, sits on pole position. Young Glenn Seaton, always a very tidy driver, came second to him yesterday. And Peter Brock celebrating his 50th birthday this year in car 05, and always a star. I mean, Peter Brock is the best known motor racing name in this country.
And a wonderful ambassador for the sport. I saw him at a breakfast the other morning out here, and I was thinking maybe I should go back to it. If old Brocky's still doing well, there's still hope for Stewart.
Now, just while the cars are here and making their way around to the grid, it's a different technique to drive one of these cars against a Formula One, and I think a lot of people don't understand that a Formula One car driver can't really just jump into one of these things and be competitive from the word go.
Not at all, and it's been showing up this year, particularly in the United Kingdom. Derek Warwick, a very talented F1 driver, just couldn't get into the Alfa Romeo he was driving this year and be able to perform, but other drivers have come along quite well. Larini, who used to drive for Ferrari, he was okay, and there's the starting grid. Perhaps we should look at that.
Yeah, Johnny Bowers sits on pole, Glenn Seaton, so it's two Fords on the front row, and then we've got Gardner and Perkins both in Commodores, so the Holden's sitting there. Longhurst and Crompton, Ford and Holden again, and here they are, the old stages together, Johnson and Brock. That'll be an interesting one. They always like to mix it. Mazzara and Alan Jones, not too happy with his car, Jonesy, last time out. Poole and Phil Ward. Now, that's an interesting car from Nokia. We'll hopefully get a shot of that. It's a very interesting sponsorship deal that's been put together for that Commodore. And as we go down the line, you can see as we get down to the, well, the privateers, I guess. And that's that white car there with the green and blue stripes on it with the Nokia sponsorship on it. This has been a very, very hard fought package. There we are, Jackie, right in the middle of your screen. And they've just put a lot of money into this car for the coming season. Now, Phil Ward drove one of the German Mercedes here last year, and he drove it with a lot of flair. It had to be detuned, Jackie, to bring it down to our specs, but it's wonderful to see companies like that getting back into motorsport in this country.
Well, sponsorship is absolutely essential to motorsport. It's a very expensive piece of equipment that's out there, a lot of people to take to run it, and as people like Mobil understand over here, that costs money, and the car makers have got to back it as well, but new sponsors are always welcome.
Thomas Mazzara, you'll see them just warming up the tyres, very critical on these cars, and as Jackie's already stated, it's a pretty warm day outside, so they shouldn't have too much trouble once they get underway. But these cars, they've got to really treat their tyres with a lot of respect, Jackie, because they can, if they burn them out with too much sliding and sideways movement, well, they'll just go off.
Very important. The other thing is brake balance, to get the brakes working well. If you get too much brake in the front, it can affect tyre temperatures also, as well as it can in the rear.
10 laps, 38 kilometres, all set for a start. Now, can Gardner do a lightning start? He did one yesterday. It was a beauty. Larry Perkins also gets off the line pretty well, but Johnny Bow made the best start I've ever seen him make here at Adelaide yesterday. Away they go. Bow gets a power down and again wins the start. Seaton goes with him. Perkins and Gardner are side by side. Johnny Bow into the first corner. Glenn Seaton second. Wayne Gardner is third. And have a look at Neil Crompton in the other Coke car.
Cleanly through the first S's there, very important. That could be a real traffic build up there if somebody gets it slightly wrong, and that was a very clean start.
Johnny Bow picking up from where he left yesterday. Glenn Seaton, Wayne Gardner, very aggressive, and have a look at this. A bit of movement up the back end of the grid.
Yep, spun it round there, pacing in the wrong direction. That's car number 24, so he's out of it. That's Paul Romero at the moment, but he'll continue, and that'll be fine. Here's a replay of that. He gets it sideways under braking. He locks up. He goes one way, then the other, fortunately getting away without any contact.
He will be Alan Jones's team driver next year in Jonesy's new team. He's a young Queenslander with a lot of ability, and Jones is going to give him a start in a good car. Now they pour down into this faster part of the circuit. Let's have a look and see who's got the mumbo down here, because the Fords and Falcons have been pretty even over the weekend. It's still Johnny Bow. Now Seaton is in a nice position there under brakes. Look at Gardner. Gardner turns across. He's going to take Seaton. There's a little bit of a touch left of the game. Gardner's out. Well, it was a pretty brave move to try and do it from there, Wayne Gardner.
Well, I'm afraid that was a foregone conclusion for me that he wasn't going to be able to do him in that position, but I'm afraid he was eased out very comfortably into the tyre wall, and that's the end of his day.
Well, Gardner trying to hustle and muscle his way through. Look at Johnson. Johnson now right up on the bumper of the big Ford in front of him, and that's got to be AJ. So AJ's got his hands full. Now, this is Crompton. All of a sudden finds himself in a good spot. Replay.
And there's the point. Wayne Gardner's on the outside. It looked like he was going to do it. Now, just look at the blue car moving over on him. A little bit of oversteer there, and Wayne had nowhere to go, and the tyre wall was ready waiting. And
Neil Crompton just jumped through there. He could see the boss go off into the wall, so he said, I'm having a bit of this. All right, Bow now. We see the 05 car. There it is. Peter Brock starts to make his move up through the field. Now, Brocky loves this place, and they love him around here as well.
Well, he's a legend, really, in Australia, and he's even known over in Europe. And there, Peter Brock, as you can see, the POV, the point of view footage here. You can see them using the curves heavily. The touring cars are able to use the apex curves a lot easier than the Formula 1 cars. You won't see it quite so much in an F1 car if you're watching later. But in the touring cars, they certainly take use of every inch in the road.
They really lift their skirts up around here, Jackie. They do a lot of dancing on two wheels once they start to dial in. Peter Brock, 05 now, thunders his way down this long, straight area. Bow building a little bit of a cushion, getting a lead. This is Crompton. Perkins in behind him. Larrikin Larry, he'll give him plenty, I'll tell you. There's Gardner into the wall. That's where he went off.
It does look like John Bow, however, has a very strong hold. He's opened up a gap just enough for breathing space. It's very important to be able to do that.
Well, it's a big cushion, this sort of racing, because normally they're climbing all over each other. And have a look at under brakes here. Johnson now comes right up behind the Castrol car, almost a touch, but not. And Dickie Johnson now floors it up past the pit area again. Watching through the chicane, tremendously quick through there. There's a telemetry for you.
Yeah, you're doing 124, 129, 148 kilometers per hour going through there. That's very quick. The left, and you see the dial on the left is the rev counter there. You've got it in second gear at the present time. It sounds a bit high, but that's ATCC in second, holding it in second at the present time. Be accelerating hard out of here.
Onto the brakes, little stab of the brakes there. Now watch it accelerate. Look at those numbers dialing out. These things have got plenty of grunt, I'll tell you. On the brakes again, just a short dab. In third gear. Great pictures, Jackie.
Great, and you know, when you see this from a camera, they're a lot closer actually than the camera lens gives the impression. Right now, he's a lot closer. If you were sitting in that race car, you'd be getting the rear foot of that car very firmly in your sight. 6,800 revs, 7,003 and 400. 6,000 revs back again, going down. There's an overtaking maneuver there. He's trying to get into the outside, but it's the outside that's not easy.
And there it is in the true perspective, as you can see. Look at this sideways again, and Larry Perkins. Oh, Larry loves to mix it. No trouble. You want to push him, he'll shove you back.
Well, I'm so glad you don't get too excited about this, Darrell. I mean, it's a man of your age and condition. It's very relieving to me that you're not really getting excited.
Get off my case, Jackie. Get off my case. Neil Crompton now, under fire. Look at Johnson climbing all over the back of Perkins now. There's plenty of push and shove going on. Brock just clips the wall too. Perkins now with Crompton. They make a little bit of a break. Bow is out in front. It's all helping him. And again they pour through. Look at the attitudes of these cars now.
Wonderful racing, just really tight racing. Of course, keep in mind that their winner so far yesterday, and again today has opened up a bit of a gap there, and John Bow's well out in front, but what close racing for the runners there.
Larry Perkins trying to get past Crompton. It's almost like Crompton's holding him up. Larry's had a look once or twice. He'll be a tap if he feels he's getting held up, but both these cars pretty well equal in horsepower. Have a look at the way they accelerate. The gap pretty well stays the same. Looking down on this track, you can see the walls. It's narrow, and there is a definite racing line.
And very clean too. That's the case. He's now gained a little bit on exit. The entry to a corner is not nearly as important as the exit, and it's the exit. Look, he's cut it again. He's picked up a few hundred revs. He's going for it. He'll pass him. He's in the right position for a complete overtake here.
Great move from Larry Perkins, fast his way down past Neil Crompton into the braking area. This is the battle for second and third. Johnny Bow's out of it now. Johnson comes into play too. Brock is there too. So still plenty of racing left in this event yet.
Larry Perkins really did a good job there, and again it was that exit speed that did it. It was that momentum that carried him all the way down the straight. If you can pick up a couple of hundred revs, it's a big punch. Now that he's passed them, he may well be able to draw out a little bit. Let's see if he can clean air helps him.
Dick Johnson now comes right up behind Crompton. Crimes all over the back of him. Watch him come down here. Tony Longhurst in the picture too. He's not out of this race yet. He's made up a lot of ground in the other Castrol car, the Falcon. Crompton gets a little sideways. They lift the skirts and dance a bit over the ripple strips. Now this is when the V8 really looks something special around here.
Well, with 570 brake horsepower, you've got to have the old boxer's boots on. You can't have the tackety boots on, because a little bit of extra pressure can mean an awful lot.
So Crompton, a pretty fine job here. Wayne Gardner, of course, went off into the wall. Seaton had a little bit of push and shove there. But just have a look at the attitudes. Look at the way they lift their wheels up around here. And you've got to drive these things with a lot of finesse.
Great shots.
Wonderful shots, and it gives you a good sensation of speed there, Jackie, doesn't it?
Oh, wonderful. And you see how much of the curb they're using, the touring cars, and now he's going over there to stop anybody passing him on the wrong side. He's coming down here because the next corner is a left-hander, and he doesn't want to have anybody in the inside of him, but he's going to get past anyway.
Well, Johnny Bow is out in front, but it's all starting to happen. Johnson gets it really sideways, and Crompton says, thank you, I'll take the spot back. Now Johnson comes back again. Oh boy, this is good stuff. Holden, forward, Holden, nothing in the two mates. It's been a great series all year long, and this year's Bathurst, it was just a classic race won by Larry Perkins.
Well, even motor racing's a great thing. When you get cars with 60 or 70 brake horsepower advantage, it takes a lot of the fun out of the spectators' day.
So Crompton, no shortage of speed in that Coca-Cola car down the straight lines. Whoa, Seaton getting untidy there.
He does, I think, hold the others up just a wee bit, however.
Johnson, straight up and underneath.
Now, if Johnson now has a clean run, I think he might just draw away as well.
So Johnson now gets past Neil Crompton. Under pressure now from Seaton. Brock's joined the battle there too. Johnny Bower reminds you, way out in front. He's doing a terrific job, made a blind of a start. All this chaos is behind him.
I think Neil Crompton's going to be having trouble now keeping everybody else behind him. That's going to be a problem, but it's certainly not slowing John Bow up. He's got a new lap record on lap 3, 1:37.72. Good time.
Yeah, that's been his form right through the year. There's the gap back to 1, 2, 3 and 4. Johnny Bower. So he's built up about the same buffer as he had in the race yesterday. But look at this. Crompton just under attack.
Yeah, he's going to have a struggle now, and you'll find that when a driver's in that frame of mind, he starts making small mistakes. He's trying to cover for himself all the time. He's driving more defensively than he is attacking. And whenever you get into that mode, it doesn't do you any good.
Glenn Seaton has tried everything he can to get round Neil Crompton. Crompton's got plenty of acceleration, holds the forward at bay, under brakes though. Seaton will close right up as he does again and really dances off those ripple strips. You watch him through the chicane. He just bounces at it over there. Now, Tony Longhurst having a good run in that Falcon there. That's not a fully developed car yet, but it's getting better every time it goes out. Look at the attitude here, Jackie.
Yes, and again, Glenn Seaton's only waiting for the mildest mistake from Compton, and he's going to do them, you can be sure.
All over the back of him. He'll try and go up on the inside line. He can't. This is helping Peter Brock, and AJ's joining the fray. AJ reckoned this car was a tight old nail, but he's in there. There he is there at the back of Brock.
Now, it's a question of where he's going to choose to do this job. The most obvious place is down Brabham Straight, and you'll see Crompton again staying to the right-hand side of the road to try and avoid that pass. But I'm afraid he's going to snuff it going out of the corner before it, and he's not going to get the momentum. But he did get an advantage there. Seaton must have made a mistake, because look at that, gap's opened up.
Yes, it has. And this Holden, I tell you, in a straight line has got plenty of acceleration, and that's a good example of Holden, Ford, and of course there's the other Ford of Longhurst, the two Fords, and a different looking car, but basically the same. I think that's a very pretty car, the Castrol one. Now look at this, down they come, and under brakes again they close up, but Crompton's got the acceleration so he can get away from them once again.
I think Seaton must have made a mistake, because Crompton certainly regathered his mind. Now, mind management's got a lot to do with it, and if he can just get his head settled and concentrate on the smoothest, quietest way, although he's slightly cramped going round there, leading up to this last corner, going round before the start-finishing line. Now look how close again Glenn Seaton's dropped. Now he's dropped back a little bit.
Yeah, look at Crompton come out. It gets the power down well, that Commodore.
I think he's got his head back in gear. I think he was a little flustered there.
Well, he was under a lot of pressure. I love them through here. Have a look at this. They just go bang, bang, thank you. So it's Val, Perkins, Johnson. They're 1, 2 and 3. Now Seaton has another look up the inside. He can't do it. Door firmly closed by Neil Crompton.
Now, that wasn't the place to do it. In fact, he put himself under a little bit of pressure because of that. He needs to just take his time now, get himself ready for the right moment, and he knows this circuit well enough to choose the right place. And all his concentration is going to be on the exit of a corner to get the momentum on the right corner, not to rush into a corner and busy himself at the beginning of the corner.
Yeah, he's done a good job, Neil Crompton, in this car. Now, Seaton comes out now. Let's have a look at the horsepower race. Has a little dive out. He has a look, can't do anything from there. Tucks in again behind the Commodore. Longhurst in behind him. There's the gap for you. That's the gap. Traffic coming into play, and that's going to be important. You want to meet this traffic in the right part of this circuit.
You certainly do, and coming up is not an easy place to pass unless you pass right there, and it's not going to be this lap.
So again, this passage of cars here, this high-speed train, as we call it in the sport, really turning it on. Johnny Bauer's gone. He's just bolted and got a buffer. Dickie Johnson out in front of this group now, but Crompton, he's just under attack. He's under siege.
Yeah, but he's adjusted himself very well. He's got his mind together again, and he's driving extremely cleanly now. It's just going to be a very tight effort for him. 9 laps. It's a 10-lap race.
So the Coca-Cola Commodore, Wayne Gardner putting the two cars together, and have a look at them through here. Fantastic. Brock lost a bit of ground there. AJ closes up. Look at Longhurst now. Longhurst almost with a desperate decided to go up the inside. Won't get through from there though. He might get a better run out of this corner, but he doesn't. Seaton shuts the door once again. So Longhurst is just getting frustrated now.
Yeah, I think actually he's moving over at a place where he shouldn't be moving over. He should be giving himself a little rest to where it really counts and then nail him.
So this is where the interest has been. The two Johnson cars, they're out in front of this mob, but Crompton is just holding Seaton at bay. Seaton has got to look in his mirrors because he's got Longhurst behind him, and then there's Brock, and then there's AJ. So it's been quite a scrap, although now they're starting to get a little bit of a gap on AJ and Brock. Crompton, watch them again here because that's in perspective. There's Larry Perkins going through. Johnson goes through. Crompton, traffic there. Seaton gets on the inside of all of that. Gets through okay. Longhurst might lose out a little bit. Longhurst goes around, and Longhurst says, get out of the way, get out of the way, I want to race. So a little bit of push and hustle and muscle there. AJ now on Brock. They're going to get held up. Now they get the run through.
AJ loses there, has to go out on the outside. That's not the groove, so he lost a little momentum there.
On the last lap now, the last lap for the Tourists in Adelaide, and that's a sad thing to say because over the years they've really turned on some wonderful racing.
And you know, when I came in this morning, the crowd had already arrived in big numbers. They weren't waiting for the Formula One Grand Prix. They were here to see the Tourers as well.
Well, all the mechanics, the Formula One mechanics, all come over the wall. They love the sound of these things. They're just great. So Crompton, Seaton, Tony Longhurst with a good drive here.
This is the last lap, so if he's going to do it, he's going to have to be very clean and very, very crafty.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Johnny Bower has certainly established himself as the star of the year. He's just driven impeccably right through the year. Wonderful season. Yeah, now again, Seaton starts to close up on Crompton. This is not over and done with for the minor places yet.
No, we've still got an important part at the end of Brabham Straight, and if there's anything going to happen, it's going to happen now. And in fact, Crompton protects his position by going on the right-hand side. That's the left-hand side of your screen, the red car. Look at Seaton coming up alongside. Can he do it from there? Very awkward. We've seen that play before.
Almost a touch. If there wasn't one, I thought maybe just a little touch. Now he gets up the inside, gets totally sideways, but can't do it. Crompton holds his line. He's done a terrific job under pressure, Neil Crompton. He's probably the most improved driver this year in touring car racing. Johnny Bower now comes across the line. Congratulations to him. He has had a wonderful, wonderful year. And a nice take. Oh, look at Larry Perkins. Oh, gets an old tail happy there. Will take second place. Dickie Johnson comes across for third. And Neil Crompton, then Seaton, then Longhurst, then Brock, and then Jones.
Well, that was a very exciting race, and I think I can now take my earplugs out and be able to go back to sanity.
Johnny Bower, recapping for you in first place, Johnny Bower. That means 4 races, won the 2 last year, won the 2 this year, so that's a terrific record. Second was Larry Perkins, turned it on the best way he could. Dickie Johnson came in third, then Neil Crompton, terrific drive. Seaton tried very hard, and Longhurst, a good result there. All right, there's the top 6. We'll take a break. Hey, stay with us, Australia. It's all going to happen here around the streets of Adelaide.